Hey everybody, it's Joe Chaffee on this Tuesday night, October the 30th, 2018. No live streams the last 3 nights. Took three nights in a row off. Been on a long drive down. By the way, I did the drive down I-81 down through Western Virginia and into the Carolina mountains. It was unbelievable how beautiful that drive is down the western parts of Virginia on the uh, on the east side of the Blue Ridge Mountains and then down through the Smokies. It's just incredible views, a beautiful color. If you've never done it before, you got to do it at least once. Johnny Quest, you can, of course, testify to this, just how beautiful the drive on I-81 is. I know you said that the traffic sometimes can be difficult, but I have to tell you, I had no traffic issues at all. Of course, we did it over the weekend, and uh, went to North Georgia to Atlanta, which is where I was yesterday, and now in Florida for a few days and enjoying myself. So jumping on, getting my live streams back in order here. So welcome aboard. You got a few things to talk about tonight as we're coming to a close on the month of October. We can look at a few things regarding snow cover growth. Dr. Judah Cohen was on Twitter today talking about that, and we can look ahead to our weather going forward. So, first off, let me just say off the bat, thanks everybody. You take a couple of days off. It's really nice to see the audience just is right there waiting to come back. I know the weather is pretty quiet, but I'm just going to start off with, for those of you who are interested, if you're on Twitter, I just put Dr. Judah Cohen's Twitter account up, and you can go ahead and follow him on Twitter. I'm going to just relay what he posted today. And one of the things that's happened with respect to snow cover growth in Eurasia during the last month. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with this, this is something that he has been working on for a number of years with regards to the idea that rapid snow cover growth, the faster the snow cover growth in Eurasia during the month of October has an impact on the winter weather in the eastern part of the United States. Faster the snow growth could be tied to colder and snowier winters. Now, it doesn't work all the time. Nothing does. It is an interesting thing among so many interesting things we look at in the winter time. But the black dotted line signifies the growth this year, which has been really near the bottom of the last 10 or so years. But in the since about the 22nd of the month, and we were talking about this before I went on my little break, that weather models were accelerating the snow cover growth rate for the very last 10 days of the month of October and into the first days of the month of November. And that has indeed verified. In fact, it has pushed the snow cover growth rate up to near the top of the chart from being near the bottom of the chart. Now, there's still few days left. It depends on how you count it. You count it either in the calendar month, or I believe it's weeks 40 to 45, 40, 41, 42, 43, and 44. So it's either 35 days if you do it that way, or you do the calendar month. I'm going to have to ask him what he uses in terms of looking at his data. But this brings it up to those levels, as we said, up to close to 2000. He mentions two winters here, 2008, October of 2008, and the 08-09 winter was, I believe, a colder and snowier one through a good chunk of the Northeast. And then it also, October 2011, which then, of course, was the La Nina year for 11 and 12, which was the exact opposite. So so how does that figure in the equation? At this point, who knows? Again, this is always just one key indicator that we look at, and you can't match up and say, well, it's growing as fast as it did in this year, given whatever year you're comparing it to. Therefore, the winter is going to be just like that, where we just pointed out two winters where you had two different outcomes. And this is because, obviously, as I said, there's more than one factor here. It's not all about Siberian snow cover. It's not all about North American snow cover. There's a lot of other stuff that is looked at, and there are no magic bullets. But we like to take a look at these things. They're interesting, to say the least. And by the way, if you want to follow this in terms of looking at the maps on a daily basis, and I'm going to show you the maps in a second, here's that link, which is to the NATIS site, NOAA, natis.noaa.gov. And if you go to that, you can actually pull up snow cover maps across North America and Eurasia on a daily basis. So from here, why don't we take a look at this is what the website looks like, by the way. So here's the map from yesterday, Monday, October 29th, showing snow cover across Siberia and in toward Eastern Europe. It has been increasing, even along the southern flank, it has been increasing. When you look at it compared to last year, it is, I believe, a bit less, but nonetheless, it has been accelerating, and we're likely to see this continue to accelerate going forward. Now, North American snow cover, which I haven't seen anything in terms of a chart on it from mid-month, which at the time was on a record pace. One of the things that's happened is because we've been dealing with this big ridge that's been out in the western part of the United States, particularly in the northwestern Canada, there's been some melting there. So the provinces in northwest Canada showing less snow, while the snow cover in the other provinces going central and particularly in southeastern Canada has been increasing. Now, I don't know where it stands in terms of the rate of growth, but it still has been going up. And we can actually take a look at what the snow cover is going to be doing in the next 10 days based on, I'm going to take the latest GFS model run, which we should have enough of, and let the maps load here. So we can look at total snowfall here over the next 10-day period, which takes us beyond the end of the time frame that we look at with regards to snow cover growth. But nonetheless, the snow cover growth across North America is pretty bullish here between now and day 10, which is November 9th, and on and in the Siberian snow cover. And by the way, I've been reading a few things with regards to this, that there are some that say that that also look at the month of November. So what happens is you could wind up looking at all this stuff um, and just keep looking and looking and looking. And at some point, you just have to kind of let the forecast play itself out. But again, at least through the first 10 days of the month of November and the last days of October, we see also a continuation of a bullish view as far as snow cover growth is across Eurasia. So I'm sure in the coming days we'll hear from Dr. Cohen as far as what he thinks, what this all means in the last analysis, and we'll take a look at his forecasts. He has already shown the model forecast for the winter, which is for a warmer than normal winter in the eastern part of the United States, much like the NOAA forecast. But bear in mind that he also points out a number of ways that could wind up going wrong. So we'll leave that for now as far as the long range is concerned, and we'll now jump to our own weather pattern here going forward, which at the moment, when we look at the upper air, it is going to be a changing pattern in that we're going to continue to see troughs moving through with ridges in between. Just there's no blocking to speak of in the atmosphere going on. So weather systems are just going to kind of move along. I would suggest that each one of these troughs as they go by will probably bring with it a fairly impressive cold shot behind it, only to or actually, let me rephrase that. Each one will be a bit more impressive than the one before it, only to have those cold shots pull out, and then a warm up, and then the next trough. That has been a signature here for a while. I don't see any real break in that. there's no blocking to speak of in the atmosphere. As we look at the indices of the teleconnections, they're really not screaming anything important. The Pacific North America index, a little bit of a ridge building into the first days of November, only to find that going negative and collapsing to some degree, but not strongly, going into, say, November 8th, 9th, and 10th, then rallying back to the neutral line. The North Atlantic Oscillation, or the NAO, which is the blocking signature we look at, is on the positive side pretty much right through the next 2 weeks, and the EPO is kind of up and down, up and down. So I think this really speaks to what we're going to be seeing going forward, which is a pattern where you're going to wind up with weather fronts coming through every couple of days, and shots of cold air behind it, warm-ups ahead of it. And in fact, one such warm-up is going to begin tomorrow for Halloween. And we can look at the new GFS model run. Let's go back to the beginning here and run it from the start. And so there isn't a whole lot happening. There are preemptive flood watches that have been put up for parts of the Ohio Valley because of this next weather front that's coming through. And you can see it here as it pushes eastward. High pressure is off the East Coast. That is going to warm things up for a Wednesday before the first push. Really, that front never gets here. It just kind of falls apart. And you really have to wait until Thursday night into Friday when the front gets close enough and you finally get into some showers. The front stalls, another wave has to get moving through it. That goes by Saturday morning and then finally up and out so that weather conditions improve. Here comes the next weather system for early next week and going into Election Day, where it looks like we'll probably be taking some kind of low pressure up to the Great Lakes with a trailing front extending south. And again, that front does get hung up somewhat, so that could prolong rain or showers into the eastern part of the United States. Shot of cold air behind it, another front. Now, the model does do this cutoff thing, makes a cutoff low around the weekend of November 10th, 11th. But as we know, this is far out into the long range. Of course, all the people that love to look at weather models 10 days or more in advance and think that they're, you're able to write them down in stone are probably looking at this right now and getting all excited. I'm not doing that, not now, okay? The bottom line is, the pattern's going to be moving along. We're going to have a lot of shortwave troughs going through. Any one of them could amplify, whether it's that one or maybe the one after that or the one after that, I don't know. It would seem that the fronts are going to have, each one that goes by should have a more impressive shot of cold air to work with than the one before it. But oftentimes when you get into this time of year, the end of October, beginning of November, you're just kind of waiting for the atmosphere to fire up. So for you, those of you who are looking for something to happen, just you're gonna have to have a little bit of patience here. Now, severe weather threat, by the way, tonight is minimal. We've got a small area in east central Texas. You've got some downpours and some thunderstorms scattered and embedded in that line that's up in the Great Lakes region, and a little bit of activity down in the southwest. But that is just about it. It's overall, for the end of October, beginning of November, it's on the quiet side. It's not too unusual to see things taking a bit of a pause at this point. You can look at the northeast radar here just for laughs, and you can see that there really is nothing going on, and nor will there be much going on through the overnight and through the day tomorrow, although you'll probably start to see some stuff come in on the northwestern fringe of this radar view. Let me come up to the chat board. Let me just real fast, let me just remind everybody, since I haven't been here for a while, and do a little shameless self-promoting, but we've set up this platform on Patreon, which is doing really well, and it's a great way for you to support what I'm doing and support my channel, support my videos and live streams. We've been doing regular posts on the Patreon platform. You can contact me at any time. It's subscription based. It just starts at $2 a month, and I'll put the link up there for you to take a look at. One other way you can support my channel, and this is if you you know, it doesn't really matter uh, with regards to what you do on Amazon. If you shop there and you use my Amazon link, which is on the descriptor to this live stream or the descriptor to this video, it's a great way to also support my channel because it doesn't cost you a dime. You get the stuff that you would have been getting anyway, and Amazon throws me back a little bit of coin. I can get a couple of cigars out of it and maybe a couple of cups of coffee, and everybody winds up being happy. So you can also take that route if you like. So I'm going to come to the chat board tonight. Brian Doherty, thanks for hitting Super Chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm just going to run through some of your comments here. Seth Dominus wants a milder northeast winter. Your neighbor's going to be going full for snow removal, not per storm. Ah, okay, I got you. So you want him to get, yeah. There's always a battle with the snow removal guys. Do they bill by the inch? Do they bill by the season? Because there were a stretch of years that you would have been better off if you billed by the season as opposed to billing by the inch. That kind of changed around the year 2000. Lately, it's been for the last 18 or so years, you've been better off billing by the inch for the most part, rather than billing by the season. Of course, that all depends on where your geography makes a huge difference with regards to that. Some years it works in some areas, and some years it doesn't. I'm not sure what the long-term view on all that is. Maybe in the long run, it winds up being 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Okay, so I'm just going to put the Patreon link that up there for those of you who are interested. They do bill by the inch. Okay, well, like I said, in the last 20 years, it's been wide. The snow removal guys who have billed by the inch have done much better than the ones that have billed on an annual basis. Tim Whitfield. Tim Littlefield, aka Tim Whitfield. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it for hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you. Maybe just put the Amazon link. And there you go. Okay, so I'm just seeing what else you guys are talking about. Scott Briller, 2011 had its earliest accumulation of snow on October 29th and 7 inches for the whole winter. That was a La Nina winter. I've kind of noticed, and I have to really go back and look at this, but in winters where we've had really strong La Nina, strong, not weak ones, but strong La Nina or El Nino events in my memory, have been years where we've gotten these kind of weird October events, only to see the actual winters just fizzle out when it's come to snowfall. And in fact, in a lot of places, it was those October events wound up being the biggest snow events for the entire winter. Okay, Greenfire 919 wants to see the total rainfall. Okay, we can do that. So we'll bring that up. So hang on one second. Total accumulated precip. And hang on. I gotta bring the window up. So just give me 1 second here, guys. I'm a little out of practice too because I've been off the last 3 nights. So we'll move that up to the top here. So maps courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com. So let's take it through the weekend with this first weather front. So there's your rainfall amounts with the first the system that's coming in for Thursday, Friday, into Saturday. We'll treat those as one event. So you've got streaks of 2-inch plus rainfalls from northeast Texas on up through the Ohio Valley. This is where we have sort of a preemptive flood watch that's already up. Also some heavier rains across the central Gulf states, right along the immediate Gulf Coast across Louisiana, southern Mississippi to the Florida Panhandle. Some heavier rains in parts of central PA to upstate New York and New England, with lesser amounts on either side, but still some 1 to 2 inch amounts that extend down into the Carolinas. Out in the Northwest, we're getting some big rains. We don't want to leave you guys out either when we're talking about rainfall. And then if we push it through election day, you'll notice that amounts continue to increase across the eastern half of the country, and then again more in the Northwest. We should look at the snowfall map too. I think that's probably a good idea to see. Pretty soon this is going to be something we'll be looking at. We'll try to bring this up on a daily basis. But as far as snowfall is concerned, there is a little bit of activity that's going to be going on up in northernmost Maine over the next couple of days. The warmer air doesn't quite make it all the way up into northern New England. Also, we're seeing over the next 3 days some snows down into the central and northern Rockies and up into southwestern Canada. Now, remember that area in southwestern Canada has been the area that has seen melting because of the strong ridge that's been in the western part of the U.S., particularly in the western part of Canada. But with that ridge breaking down now, or having broken down, we are going to see snow return to that area. And as we move out through the next 10 days, this again takes us now through Friday, November the 9th. You really have to go up near close to the Canadian border to find any snow that accumulates, and even there the amounts aren't especially exciting. And then you go back to the northern Rockies and the central Rockies, where you do have some accumulating snows, much of that being, as I like to call it, front end loaded, so coming through the first half of the forecast period rather than the second. So I hope that helps you out, Green Fire. I don't have too many big arguments, by the way, with the models, with what they're putting out in terms of numbers on the rainfall side of things. I mean, I think that seems pretty reasonable, but considering what the models have been indicating so far, at least over the last couple of days. I haven't been able to do the live streams, but I have been paying, some attention to what's happening weather-wise. By the way, we do have Hurricane Oscar. It's way out in the Atlantic. It is going to be producing some big waves in and around Bermuda, but that's it. Okay, so that might be the last one. Maybe at that point, that'll be the one that shuts it down. The Pacific still has a chance to pull up another couple of storms and finish out the entire list, taking it down to Xavier. Was it Xavier, Yolanda, and Zeke? I think are the next three names on there, and then they've completed the list. I don't remember them actually going through, even though the Pacific is always more active than the Atlantic side. I don't ever remember them going actually through the complete alphabet and then going maybe to the Greek alphabet if they have to go back to the A storm. All right, so Seth Dominus is circling November the 5th, okay, as some wacky weather. Okay, but whatever wacky weather means, put it in quotes, because you got to, by wacky, to me, in my mind, that's something really highly unusual, like Chicago going to 90. I would consider that wacky weather. Chicago seeing their first snow on the 5th of November, I would not see that as wacky weather. I had two good weeks, Scott Briller, weather-wise for vacation. Yeah, you know what? It worked out. I got lucky. Okay, really, I got lucky. There was no. I didn't pick these out for any other reason other than the fact that they suited my schedule and they were convenient to me. Because I have usually laid, my rule has been, when it's come to picking vacation time, I just go ahead and do it where I think it's going to do it. If something's going to happen, it's beyond my control. And since there's no way for me to know what's going to happen ahead of time, I might as well roll the dice. And and that's worked out for me for the most part. So I go whenever it is I can go, and I think for most people that is the case. You take your vacation when you can take it. You can't get a weather forecast 6 months in advance or 3 months in advance, because that's a waste of time. It doesn't work. You consider it wacky if it stays dry for you, Johnny Quest, for 2 weeks. How about trying for 2 days? But I understand what you're getting at. Uh, it was driving down through that whole area. The color change. I was actually pretty surprised at how extensive the colors were actually further along in your neck of the woods than they were up in my area where they were just starting to change before I left. So it was, but it was beautiful all the way down. And I think there was one stretch. What was it when we go to? Was it 77 to 85? There's one stretch there when we got into North Carolina when we were really, really high up. In fact, it was the first time that I had ever seen what going down. It was a 6 mile incline down, and they had lanes for runaway trucks in case their brakes failed, and these lanes were cut into the mountain going up, so that a truck, if they lost their brakes going down that long grade, can drive into this lane, and then it'll take them up the mountain, hopefully slow them down. But the fact that they have runaway truck lanes, uh, the reason why they have them is because they've experienced runaway trucks. Thankfully, I did not have to witness any of that. Did I hear about the tornado that hit Fisher Island? I did. I did see. In fact, the Weather Service, and I can put a link up on that too, for those of you who would like to look at this. Let me go to. It's on the New York office website. There were actually two tornadoes that were confirmed. One on Fisher's Island, and that was an EF1 and an EF0 in Stonington and North Stonington, Connecticut. So if you want to take a look at that, here's the link for that. Nick Cortese, thanks for hitting Super Chat. Appreciate it. If that link isn't working, I'm going to put up the New York Weather Service office link, and you can take a look at this as well, as far as getting more information on that. Not a surprise with respect to the nor'easter Friday night and Saturday that we had here. There were areas in central and eastern Long Island getting 60-mile-an-hour plus wind gusts, and also over parts of coastal New Jersey, up and down the New Jersey coast. One of the things I would point out, this was a bit of a frustrating thing for me the next day. We made it clear that if the coastal areas that I just mentioned were the ones that were going to get the really, really strong winds, not the inland areas. The inland area winds, while they might be gusty, were going to be much less. So was the rainfall. And on the rainfall was going to be on the order of 1 to 2 inches, which was, it was rainfall, but it was nothing crazy. But of course, it gets completely misinterpreted, particularly when you've got folks that are watching, let's call them normal media, quote unquote, spinning everything out of control and not putting any context into anything. And I had a couple of battles with a few people who apparently didn't understand the part where I said, if you lived in eastern Long Island and coastal New Jersey, yeah, you would get the wind, and everybody else would get much less. But this is why, I emphasize the fact that it's really important for people who are, trying to digest weather information and trying to come up, figure out what's going to happen, to pay attention is a lot. It's not just a simple matter of, just sitting through a weathercast. There's a lot going on, and you can't really apply everything specifically to one zip code or two zip codes. Every place is going to be a little bit different. So it's important to pay attention. You're not going to get specifics by watching a network newscast, which is talking to you about, things in a general basis, because they're showing it to the entire United States. Okay. So, you want to go to your local forecasters for that. And you have to recognize that every area is going to react differently with every single storm. So nothing that happened this weekend was any kind of big surprise. I don't know why it should have been to anybody, but you know what? That's the world I live in. So anyway, I think I'm going to leave it at that, folks. So we're going to keep these live streams a little bit tighter than we usually do, because I'm still, kind of on a little bit of a vacation. Next week it'll be back to normal. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Let's run this library schedule for you. Thanks, Scott Briller, for reminding me. For those of you in New Jersey, I will be at the Bayonne Library in, conveniently, Bayonne, New Jersey. That's next Wednesday, November the 7th at 7 o'clock. So that's the day, November the 7th at 7 o'clock. So that is the day after Election Day. And then beyond that, we got to jump into December, and that will be on December the 12th. Wednesday, December the 12th, I will be at the Babylon Library. So write those two dates down. I don't have any other ones that have popped up, but those are the two up and coming dates. Next Wednesday, November the 7th, at the Bayonne Library in Bayonne, New Jersey, and on Wednesday, December the 12th, at the Babylon Library in Babylon on Long Island. All right, so we're going to leave it at that. There's no Joe and Joe show this week with me being away, but we'll get that back underway next week when I get back to work. And have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for those of you who hit Super Chat tonight. Again, consider joining the Patreon platform. The link is on the descriptor to this live stream and the descriptor to this video, and I also put it in the chat. And thank you for those of you who have shopped on my Amazon link, because that's a great way. Amazon throws me back a little bit of coin, and I get, as I said, I get a few cigars or a cup of coffee out of it. So have a great evening, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.